This is the principle that you need to understand to create massive profits, okay? Now, if you don't understand it, it can break your bank. Hey, Rafael Cortez back on the L.E.S Business More Profits series, Lean, Effective, Strategic, and Simple Business. Let's talk about the principle of supply and demand. Before I do that, I want to ask you to please subscribe, like, and share if you're liking the content that we're putting out there for you every single week. With that being said, the principle of supply and demand, right? It's not even a principle, it's a law. If you ever took economics in college, like, you know it's a law of supply and demand. And it's very important, right? It's important to understand how this works because it can create massive profits. It can give you windows for massive profits, or it can also break your bank if you do not understand how it works, okay? The law of supply and demand, I'm gonna call it a principle. I don't care, it's my YouTube video. The principle of supply and demand is driven by this, right? Pay attention. It's super simple, but it's a big golden nugget. When I saw it, when I understood this, it made all the difference in my business. It's driven by the fact that people buy based on emotions, okay? People will spend money at the store, at the car dealership, buying that purse, but they'll do it based on emotions. And they will come back to justify it logically, okay? So people do not spend money. When they're spending money, they do not spend money logically. That's why last minute sales are so effective. That's why Black Friday is such a big thing, right? Everybody's all rattled up and they're like ramped up into that emotional state of buying because people have FOMO, fear of missing out, right? So they buy emotionally, and then the next day, they're sitting there thinking, I'm happy I got it because at least I saved $50 on that, right? Or I saved $100 on that. So they're justifying their purchase logically. It's the same thing. If somebody's looking at a $5 coffee cup, or somebody is looking to buy a house, it's the same thing, okay? People buy based off emotions and pull the trigger, make decisions emotionally, and then they come back and then they justify it logically. So somebody who's looking to sell a property, it's gonna be more than likely an emotional trigger that's gonna come in and then get them, push them over the edge, and then they're gonna come back and then justify it logically, right? So supply and demand plays into the emotions of the consumers, or the sellers, right? But it's all an emotional, it's the emotional side of doing business, supply and demand. When things are selling out, things go up in price, okay? When there's a lot of inventory, when there's a lot of supply of something, the price drops, okay? It's super simple. And this principle stands anywhere. It doesn't matter what industry, right? We see it in real estate. When there's a lot of homes, the price is low. Negotiations with the sellers, I mean, they're pretty biased. They're one way. And you see it, right? It's a lot easier to get into a house. Now, when the supply is low, it's a lot harder to get into a house. People start freaking out. Those who are selling, they sell emotionally. So they're, asking for the moon in terms of prices. And then when the price is low, like they're willing to give the thing at a massive discount. Why? Because it's an emotional play. It's not a logical play. People forget that trends in the market change. They'll adjust all that stuff in. All of that stuff factors in, right? But at the end of the day, it comes down to an emotional based decision. Now, we see it in real estate again. We see it in construction. For example, Hurricane Katrina hit. Now, also when you have something new that hits the market space, right? We have stocks, we have all that stuff. Right now, a big trendy thing, it's NFTs. NFTs, for what I understand, it's digital art, okay? People are buying that kind of stuff like crazy right now. So there's a lot of demand for it. And what happens is that the price of NFTs is increasing. Like it's 20 times, the price it was last week. It's like, it's an unbelievable rate. But again, it's supply and demand. At the end of the day, at the base of it all, it's supply and demand. The great shortage of toilet paper in 2020. I mean, people were buying TP, storing it in their house, and then marking it up for 10 times the amount. It's crazy. Supply and demand. It's all emotional. But those who saw it coming capitalized on it. Okay. So if you see something that's coming your way, and you understand the law or the principle of supply and demand, you're going to be able to prepare for it. When everybody else has high demand for it, you already have the supply. Okay. It's simple as that. So think about trends right now. Again, going back to like the NFT example, right? Anybody who stacks up on NFTs right now is probably going to be able to capitalize on NFTs for the next maybe 3 months or something. I don't know how long that's going to last, right? But people are catching on to it right now. And what's happening, it's everybody else is getting FOMO, fear of missing out, right? So those who come in and buy NFTs right now can come in and then mark them up for a price. Maybe it lasts, maybe it's one of those things that stays, maybe it's not. But the fact is that right now people can jump into that because of supply and demand, and then make a good chunk of cash on it. Now think about materials. What kind of materials do you need in your business? Okay, are you in a clothing company? Are you in a are you a gym that needs to buy gym equipment, that sort of thing? What is happening in the industries that create the raw materials for whatever product you need? What's happening there? Think a level deeper, okay? When you see that, you're gonna see if prices are gonna be coming, they're gonna be increasing. So if you think about that kind of stuff, you're gonna be able to prep your business and have some contingencies in place, okay? If the price of, materials and wood increases because I'm in construction, what's gonna happen? Do I need to buy ahead of time, a couple of weeks ahead of time because something, big natural disaster happened on the East Coast? Is that gonna, hit me? I can, might as well stock up right now, right? Future pacing yourself and thinking ahead, it's gonna help you out in terms of supply and demand, okay? Think about transportation right now. Right now we have a huge problem in transportation. If you go to the grocery store, everything is increasing in price. I mean, you're talking fruits and vegetables and everything's just getting more expensive. Why? Because there's a shit ton of boats stuck on the port, on just every major port where import comes in. All right, so supply and demand, that's bottlenecking the supply of groceries and materials and raw goods and everything that we need as consumers, right? So what happens? Supply is getting shorter, demand is getting higher, and price is getting higher, okay? Think about whatever industry that you're in, and think ahead. How's the rule or the principle of supply and demand? How is that impacting my business right now? Is it gonna shift? Is it gonna change in the next 3 to 6 months? Is there something happening where my, the raw goods or the material or the product that I'm using is gonna be on high demand? If so, you know that you're gonna be able to increase your prices, right? Now, if something happens where it goes the other way and it's gonna be in low demand, you can pivot from where you're at and then add an additional product or add something else that's gonna sustain that gap, because it usually happens in cycles. So if you operate like that, if you take into consideration the law of supply and demand, when everybody else is pricing at the same level, you're gonna be able to account and understand that people buy based off emotions, and they have that fear of missing out, right? They have fear of missing the opportunity, fear of missing, that's why people go out and buy like 3 months supply of toilet paper. It's insane. Like, I saw people walking around with carts just full of toilet paper. I mean, there's other ways if you want to get creative, besides the point, totally. But that's what I mean, right? Like, it's it's besides the point, but it's really not. Like, it really, feeds into it. It's about understanding what supply and demand can do for your business. If you're pricing things consistently, all the time, and never increase based on the fluctuations of the market, based on the emotions that people have whenever they're buying or consuming your product, you're gonna be leaving a lot of stuff on the table. You're gonna be leaving a lot of profits on the table, okay? Sometimes you can mark it up a little higher, even though everybody else is at the same level. You can mark yours up because of supply and demand. If you have a particular brand, if you have a particular niche that you're getting into, you can tap into that kind of stuff, and just kind of foresee where the prices are going to go. I mean, one very livable example is real estate. Right now, we're in a place where investment properties are harder to come by. Okay, so the rational way of working numbers and doing the math, although it works for 70% of the people out there, there's still 30% of investors that want to, they're okay paying a little more just because of the supply and demand of things. Now, if you're positioned the right way, you can capitalize on that for the time being. Again, supply and demand doesn't stay steady for a long time. Okay, supply and demand changes; it's dynamic. But if you're able to follow it and see when it increases, when the supply is high and you have something, you need to price it a little down, right? Because there's a lot of it. When supply is low, and you have something, you can mark it up because there's not a lot of it. So it's a simple principle. It's a simple concept, yet it's very, very powerful to understand how this works, because you can take that strategy and apply it to your business, apply it to your pricing, apply it to your acquisition strategies, and create a dynamic business model as you're doing it, right? So the biggest thing to remember on this whole thing I just rambled about is that people make decisions based on emotions, and they come back and justify them based on logic. That's what the principle of supply and demand anchors to. So bring that school of thought into your business and be dynamic along with supply and demand, right? You're gonna move along with it and you're gonna do a lot better. Thank you for putting up with me. I love spending time with you guys and dropping videos here every single week. So if you're liking them, I'm gonna ask you to do me a personal favor. Please subscribe, like, and share. Help me reach more entrepreneurs out there and spread the message, okay? Stay focused, you got this.